Okay, so an integer. Positive or negative whole. Okay, now I have a lot of shorthand in my class. All right. So I'm lazy. So I invent my own shorthand. The pound sign for me represents number. Okay? So integer is a positive or negative whole number. Okay, that's the way I will write it. The pound sign, for the first time I'll say, this means number. Okay? So positive or negative whole number. So, for example, plus 2 minus 4 plus 5 minus 1,000. Those are all integers. Correct? Okay. Negative 1/2. Is that an integer? No, because it's not a whole number. Okay, perfect. Now we will talk about, and then, well, probably tomorrow, there's another number. Have you guys gone through the numbering system, like all the different classifications of numbers, sort of? We'll talk briefly about that tomorrow. I'm not a stickler for that because it really, its terminology has more of an important role later on. But for Math 9, we'll just identify that there's all these different classifications. But right now we're just doing integers. Okay, so for the first bit, we're going to do adding and subtracting of integers without a calculator. Okay, so all right. So we can start with the basics. One plus 3. 4.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Okay. Negative 1 plus 3. Did everybody hear what they said? They said 2, right? Is that correct? Do we agree with that?
Who said no?
2. So if you are not, because I know negatives can be a source of anxiety for some people, you can always use the trusty old number line, right? And I will give you one of these things. So negative 1 is right there. Let's zoom in on this. There's negative 1. If I'm going to add 3, which way do you go if you're adding?
Right.
You go to the right in the positive direction. This is the positive, negative. So I add 1, 2, 3. There's my answer, which is 2. Okay? There we go. All right. What if it is 1 plus negative 3?
-2.
So if you have a positive and a negative, what do you do with those signs? What does a positive and a negative make?
Another negative.
Another negative, right? So this bit becomes negative. So this is the same as saying 1 minus 3. And what does a negative sign tell you? Which direction do you go on the number line?
Left.
So that means you're going left. So if you start at 1 and we take away 3, so we're going left, 1, 2, 3, end up at negative 2. All right. Negative 1 minus 3. Anyone know what the answer is?
I put my hand up.
I know. I saw that. You already answered a couple, that's why. Yes. So negative 1, we start at negative 1. This minus tells us we're going left. 1, 2, 3. So we end up at negative 4. Did you guys do this last year?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Do one more and then we'll give you some practice. So what if we do what if you have multiple things going on here? Now, we will get to BEDMAS. All right. This doesn't really matter for BEDMAS because everything's in addition or subtraction. All right. So do you remember what were the rules of BEDMAS?
Brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction.
There you go. Brackets, exponents you do first, right? Remember they're grouped in like twos, and then division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. Now, we're going to get to BEDMAS. So,
What if you did BEDMAS last year?
Yeah, we're going to do it with more complicated stuff, though. Yeah, that's the thing. So we're going to get to it with more complicated equations, but you always look, we don't have brackets and exponents. We don't have division or multiplication. This is all addition or subtraction. So usually you would just work from where to where? Left to right, correct? So just work left to right. You can use a number line if you want. Negative 9 plus 4. What does the positive mean? Which way do we go? So negative 9. Adding 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to do it in steps here, okay? So the negative 9 and 4 becomes negative 5. What do those two negatives there become? Positive. So then I can go plus 2, and then I have a minus 3. So now we're at negative 5, and I'm adding 2. Which way do I go? So I'm adding 2. Do this in green. 1, 2. So now I'm on 3, or negative 3. So negative 3 minus 3. So you end up at negative 6, right? Because I'm at negative 3, and the subtraction tells me to go left again. So I go back 1, 2, 3 to negative 6. And that is my answer. Are we okay with that?
No, we're just going to prove math wrong right now.
Any questions about that? All right. So, all right, multiplication and division. To do multiplication and division of integers, you have to remember the signs, which we talked briefly about when we were doing addition subtraction. So a positive times a not plus 1, times a positive will always be positive. I just put a plus sign for positive, okay? A positive multiplied by a negative is negative, and a negative multiplied by a negative is positive. You need to remember those. Okay? You'd be surprised at some of my grade 11s and grade 12s that will mess this up. So if it does seem like this is very basic, it's very important. People that don't do well at math in the higher levels, it's usually not because they don't understand what they're learning there. They have weak foundational skills, which is this stuff. And then they make mistakes. Okay? All right. So if we have, first example, -5 times -6. So have you seen multiplications written in a lot of different ways? Have you seen this way? Where it's just bracket and a bracket? That means multiplication. It's the same as if somebody wrote this. I'm just going to show you the different methods. Sometimes you'll see this. That's probably what you're used to seeing. Are you used to seeing? And a dot. That is perfect. That's the other way they do it. Those are all the same thing. This is basically never written beyond grade 8 probably. Maybe this year we might do it a bit. But when you go beyond that, because x's are in a lot of equations, that's why we don't write x or multiplication, something like that. We usually write this or a little dot. Okay? Those all mean the same thing. A negative times a negative is?
Positive.
So what is the answer? Positive 30. All right. Does the order matter if you're just doing multiplication?
Yes. No.
It doesn't matter. You can go in any order, right? So we can go -2 times +4 is -8. I'm going to do it in steps. You don't have to do it in steps. If you want to do it all in your head, that's fine. So then I get -8 times -3, which is +24, right? 8 times 3 is 24. Are we getting the wheels starting to grind here? And the rust is falling off? All right. Is the answer positive or negative? I actually don't care what the answer is right now. Positive or negative?
Positive.
Who says positive? Who says negative? The negatives have it, right? Because 2 negatives multiplied together is positive. And then a positive times the negative, the answer should be negative, right? What is the answer? -6. All right. Are we okay? You did bed mass last year? So if I do this, so what do you do first? You do your multiplication, right? So let's deal with the left bit, this bit. What's -2 times 4? -8. Does everybody agree with that? What's -8 times -1? +8. So this whole thing here becomes +8. Okay? Then because there's an addition sign, We leave that because we do that last. We have to do this multiplication next, correct? Is that right? Okay. What's 2 times negative 3? Negative 6. Does everybody agree? What's negative 6 times positive 4? Negative 24? Because this is all multiplication, correct? Are we okay here? All right. 8 plus negative 24. I should use smaller numbers. So what is this? Here, I'll write it when it's closer. 8 plus negative 24. What do the signs become? If it's one's positive and one's negative, you both have your answer. Whoever.
Negative 16.
Negative. You're giving me the answer. It's 8 minus 24. Does everybody agree with that? Okay. 8 minus 24 is negative 16. Is it negative 16?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Is that okay? All right. All right. Now we got to do division, which is basically the same thing. So, number 4. So, I don't know how you're used to seeing division. Is it like that? Are you used to that?
Yeah.
Because nobody. Okay, so obviously that's a division sign, correct? And when you're dividing or the rules for division are the same as the rules for multiplication when it comes to signs, right? So a positive 6 divided by a negative 3 should be what? Positive or negative? Negative. Okay, so we know the answer has to be negative. What's 6 divided by 3? 2. So the answer is negative 2. Have you seen division that looks like this? It looks like a fraction. It is a fraction, but it means the exact same thing. The negative, now you can write it a whole bunch of different ways. Well, 3 different ways, not a whole bunch. The negative can sit in the middle, and we're going to get into fractions in a couple days. Oops. I know that's everybody's favorite. So the negative can sit in the middle, or the negative could be up top, or the negative can be in the bottom. They all mean the same thing. Now, generally, you don't put the negative in the bottom. That's just kind of convention. But these are all the exact same thing because, forget the negative. What's 6 divided by 3? 2 with a negative in front, right? So I get negative 2. Negative 6, this means divide, correct? Is everybody, you've seen this before, right? Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. And 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. They all mean the same thing. Time is class end? 150? 152. We got like 16, 17, 18 minutes. All right.
You have 18 minutes.
18 minutes. Let's do one more example and then I'll give you some stuff to do. All right. Last example. Let's do negative 8 times negative 9 divided by 3 times negative 4. So, what does BEDMAS say to do? Okay, brackets, but we don't have, when BedMath says brackets, they mean things like this. Like you do the stuff that's in the brackets. If it's just one little bracket, I'm just trying to separate the multiplication. Okay, but you're right, brackets, I don't want to, that is correct. All right, so what two operations do we have going on here?
Division and multiplication.
Division and multiplication. Does it matter the order if you're doing division and multiplication?
No.
Because it's part of the BedMath grouping. Where's the BedMath grouping that I wrote? There it is right there. Division and multiplication. The order doesn't matter. It's that grouping, okay? So if the order doesn't matter, now the more you do, sometimes you see there's little tricks and stuff to simplify. But if the order doesn't matter, just do the top. What's -8 times -9? Positive 72, correct? Positive. What's 3 times -4? What's 72 divided by 12? It's 6. And then because it's a positive and a negative, that makes it negative. The answer is -6. Are we okay? No. All right. I'm going to give you some practice, and then that